Cain's first betrayal. Imagine being the first family in human history. No neighbors, no awkward relatives at weddings, and absolutely nobody to blame when the casserole goes wrong. Then, one brother kills the other. According to the biblical story of Cain and Abel, the two brothers made offerings to God. Abel's offering was accepted, while Cain's was not. Cain became jealous, invited Abel into a field, and murdered him. It is one of the oldest stories about sibling rivalry, jealousy, and the horrifying discovery that family arguments can escalate far beyond slamming a bedroom door. The story is religious and symbolic rather than a verified historical event, but its influence is enormous. Cain and Abel became the ultimate example of betrayal from someone who was supposed to be on your side. Abel did not lose a war, plot against Cain, or steal his inheritance. He simply had a better relationship with the divine customer service department. Cain's problem was not just anger, it was a comparison. His brother's success felt like proof of his own failure. Basically, Cain saw family love as a competition and responded by deleting the competitor. Romulus deletes Remus. Rome's founding story begins with two brothers, Romulus and Remus, who were supposedly raised by a wolf after being abandoned as babies, which already makes their childhood more dramatic than most historical documentaries. The brothers grew up, decided to establish a city, and immediately discovered that agreeing on a location was apparently impossible. They argued over which hill should be chosen and who had the right to name the new settlement. According to the traditional legend, Remus mocked or crossed a boundary Romulus had marked around the city. Romulus then killed him. This is the ancient equivalent of saying, "If you step over this line, I'm founding a city on your face." Romulus became the namesake of Rome, and Remus became the tragic footnote proving that urban planning meetings have always been dangerous. The story may not describe a literal historical event, but it explains something uncomfortable about Rome's identity. The city was imagined as being born through violence, ambition, and one brother deciding that compromise was for people with fewer monuments. Their betrayal is especially nasty because they began as partners. They were not enemies from birth. They had the same origin story, the same goal, and presumably the same wolf-related childhood memories. Then one disagreement turned into fratricide. Brutus stabs Caesar. Julius Caesar was not technically Marcus Junius Brutus's biological father, although ancient writers and later legends made their relationship sound intensely personal. Caesar had been close to Brutus's mother, Servilia, and treated Brutus with unusual favor. So when Brutus joined the conspiracy against Caesar, it was not exactly a random office betrayal. It was more like discovering that the family member you helped get a job has joined a committee dedicated to stabbing you. On March 15th, 44 BCE, Caesar was assassinated by a group of Roman senators who feared he was becoming a king. Brutus was one of the leading conspirators. Later storytelling transformed the moment into the famous phrase, "Et tu, Brute?" meaning, essentially, you too. I expected this from the man with the knife, but not from the emotionally complicated pseudo-son. The real historical details are less theatrical, but the betrayal still carried enormous symbolic weight. Caesar had shown Brutus mercy during earlier political conflicts and elevated him in Roman public life. Brutus repaid that generosity by helping murder him in the Senate. The conspiracy was supposed to save the Roman Republic. Instead, it triggered more civil war and helped clear the path for imperial rule. So Brutus betrayed Caesar to protect the Republic, then helped create the political chaos that destroyed the Republic anyway. That is what historians call an extremely expensive misunderstanding, the family revolt. King Henry II of England had 4 sons, a wife with political influence, and the deeply unfortunate idea that dividing an empire among family members would create peace. In 1173, Henry's sons rebelled against him. Henry the young king, Richard, and Joffrey joined forces with their mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, along with powerful nobles and foreign rulers. The complaint was simple. The sons had titles, but not enough real power. They were princes with excellent wardrobes and disappointing access to the actual steering wheel. The revolt lasted about 18 months. Henry eventually defeated the rebellion, but the family damage was permanent. Eleanor was imprisoned for years, and the sons continued competing with their father and with one another. Even John, the youngest son, eventually joined the rebellion after being encouraged to do so. The most painful moment came when Henry, sick and fleeing, learned that John had also betrayed him. John was his favorite son, the one Henry trusted most. That makes the betrayal feel less like a political disagreement and more like receiving a rejection letter from your own child while already being chased through medieval France. Henry survived the revolt, but he did not achieve the family unity he wanted. His children inherited ambition, resentment, and a talent for turning dinner table tension into international warfare. Uncle knows best. In 1483, King Edward IV of England died, leaving his 12-year-old son, Edward V, as king. The boy's uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was appointed protector. That sounds reassuring until you remember that medieval royal job titles often meant the person standing closest to the throne. Richard took control of the young king and later brought Edward's younger brother, Richard, Duke of York, into the Tower of London. The boys were eventually declared illegitimate, and their uncle became King Richard III. After that, the princes disappeared and were never seen alive again. Nobody can say with absolute certainty what happened to them. The murders were widely blamed on on Richard III, and many historians believe he was responsible, but the evidence remains contested. What is not disputed is the basic horror of the situation. 2 children were placed under the protection of their uncle, locked away inside a royal fortress, and vanished during a succession crisis. This is betrayal with paperwork. Richard did not merely attack his nephews in a battlefield ambush. He used legal arguments, official titles, and the machinery of government to remove them from the line of succession. It is the sort of family betrayal where the uncle says, "I'm doing this for stability," and then stability mysteriously ends with 2 missing children and a crown on his head, a mother's crown. The worst family betrayal may belong to Olympias, the mother of Alexander the Great, or to the enormous political disaster surrounding her family. Either way, this household treated succession like a competitive sport where the losers were executed. Olympias was married to Philip II of Macedon and was the mother of Alexander. When Philip took another wife, Cleopatra, the royal family became a battlefield of jealousy, inheritance, and competing heirs. Philip was assassinated in 336 BCE by a bodyguard named Pausanias. Ancient sources later suggested that Olympias may have supported or encouraged the murder, although her exact involvement remains uncertain. Alexander's role is also debated. After Alexander died, the succession crisis became even uglier. Olympias returned to Macedonia to defend her grandson and fought against Cassander, one of the rival power brokers. She captured and executed Philip Aridaeus, Philip II's son and Alexander's half-brother, along with his wife and numerous supporters. Later, Cassander defeated Olympias, and she was killed by relatives of the people she had executed. So this was not one betrayal. It was a family tree being used as a tactical map. Husbands turned against wives. Mothers eliminated rival heirs. Brothers became obstacles. Grandchildren became political pieces. And everyone involved insisted they were protecting the rightful future of the kingdom. That is what makes Olympias' story so disturbing. Family loyalty did exist, but only when it was useful. The moment someone else became a threat to the crown, affection was apparently placed in a drawer, labeled "deal with later," and replaced with murder. The winner, then, is not simply one person stabbing one relative. It is the entire Macedonian dynasty transforming the family into a succession crisis with better costumes. Because the worst family betrayal in history is the one where everyone claims they are saving the family while systematically destroying it. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.